Well, good morning. And if this doesn't spell the makings of the start of just getting very sick, I don't know what does. So the fog has just started to move in. It's like dripping wet. Everything is dripping wet. It's about 1 degree. So, if a guy was gonna run around without a coat on or something, yeah, you may as well just book a week off of work or a week off of school, because you're gonna get sick in this kind of weather. This is the worst kind, the kind I dread the most. This sopping, gross. I could never live on in a coastal town, especially a northern coastal town where it's always wet and damp and raining and gross. But things are clipping along here. I've been getting quite a few comments on my gravel from people that have been coming through. So I wasn't exactly sure how this bigger stuff would work. I know it's hard on the feet. It's hard to walk on, but as we've been driving over it with all the machines and stuff, it's been squishing down. So I did these 3 loads as a test. Oh, somebody just got something. So I went from basically just on the other side of that tote, out this way to just the other side of the shop. I didn't do right in front of the shop because it's hard to walk on and it's hard to kneel on and it's just not fun. So I was going to put 3/4 inch crush there. We got a couple piles of that. And then I didn't do over by the bins either, because if you spill grain into this big rock, I mean, something like that would just be a disaster on the old hammer mill. Whereas if you have that leveled off and all the rocks and sticks are out of it, and if you spill grain, you can take a broom and sweep it up, and you don't get much dirt and you don't get any rocks. So that's why that's not done. That being said, I'm gonna order a couple more loads. I think I want to do in here in front of this shed. So I'll probably basically need a load there, come out where the tractor parks, and maybe just go straight here, leave that area over there. Maybe it'll even come back to grass, I'm not too sure. And then a couple more loads to go that way. But yeah, that's that. Dad was working on this bottom bearing, and then it rained for 2 days, so that's kind of at a standstill. We did notice in the parts book that we had lost or destroyed some protective seal that went between the grain and the bearing. So Dad actually built one out of some hard plastic, so that'll be good when we put that in. And I was working on this backhoe yesterday. I changed all the fluids and filters on that telehandler. I should actually try that thing. Let's go over there. So for about the last week, it's been off, and I didn't know what it was. My dad thought it wasn't getting enough fuel, so easiest thing is change fuel filters. Of course, I wanted to change the oil and everything in it anyways, so I've got hydraulic oil and 2 new fuel filters. But it's been running, yeah, it's just not 100%. So I don't know why the birds like living in here so much, but they really do. It's been good since I put the new batteries in it, but still not 100% on the starting, and I don't think it has as much power as it did before. So I didn't use it yesterday very much. I just loaded a bag and that was it. I didn't make bags or load much molasses, so I didn't get it tested out. But I'm hoping it just fires right up, stays running, giving it about 30 seconds of glow plugs here because it is a little bit chilly. That's pretty good. The other thing I should have checked was the oil in those hubs. I didn't do that. But this guy is going to most likely spend his whole life in the winter inside the shop because I use him every day, so I won't leave him outside plugged in. I'll leave him right in the shop the 4440s will have to stay outside plugged in. We got another load of molasses on the way. That's gaining popularity up in the Peace Country. So every once in a while, somebody comes out with something that works, and I'm sympathetic to the cattle producers because we see it on the grain side as well, where people will come out, agronomists and salesmen and stuff, and if they, hey, you know, like we got this stuff, you go out, you spray it right now, and it'll help your crop residue break down over the winter, and it's cheap. It's only $3 an acre, and you're like, okay, well, that's like 7,500 bucks. Is it really worth it? You know, or they'll have a different type of fertilizer, or they'll have what else will they, you know, like anything. And a lot of, I mean, myself included, we kind of roll our eyes because there's a lot of people peddling snake oil. In fact, there was an article a few years ago talking about things like fungicides and certain things like that aren't even regulated. So not that dissimilar to ads in the back of some men's magazines and things that talk about longer hair or longer whatever if you take these pills or if you do this therapy. You know, that does happen as well in ag. Someone's going to come out and they're going to peddle you something that, you know, the science behind it is kind of rocky, and you don't know if you're actually going to get a benefit out of it or not. But this molasses, so this will be the third season we've had it, and we had 2 years there where people didn't have a choice. They were forced into using it, and nothing but repeat customers on that. Like, everybody saw the results that they claimed they would see, and you know, in most cases they actually saved money. So if you're doing anything at all, if you're doing a mineral program or if you're doing anything like that, incorporating molasses is going to replace something that you're doing, so it actually doesn't cost you anymore, and all of the net benefits that come with it, because it's not just for getting forages into your animals, or forages or straw. There's a list of other benefits that people see if they use it right. So the folks that did use it over the last 2 seasons, I'd say 70-80% of them are coming back because they want to duplicate the results that they've seen over the past 2 seasons. All right, well, I'm back here in the shop. So this is that plastic, basically protective seal that Dad built to keep the grain away from the bearing. New bearing's in there. All he's got to do is put it back on. Once it dries up, of course, we're not going to go lay in the ground because that would be bad. I have this brake calipers all apart. Total disaster, but I'm going to throw all this away. I was just going to keep it. So show my dad what it looks like inside of there. Then the other thing, and you know, this is truly amazing. I had the dash out on this backhoe because I needed to reach in there because that's where the master cylinders go. They go under the dash. And so before, with those cylinders that are on the welding table over there, they were brand new. And they didn't work right out of the box. So I don't know if that was a cheap quality thing or whatever. I did buy them from a backhoe place. They weren't even from a wrecker or nothing. But the pedals instantly were stiff, and you can see this one. That actuates the left side really well. That actuates the right side really well. Maybe there's my coffee. So these are really good. I did put a new seal in there, so hopefully it's not leaking. Doesn't seem to be leaking. But the shocking thing, the absolute shocking thing, is I didn't touch anything electrical. When I went over to get this backhoe, I just fired it up and I drove it into the shop. I parked it. Get out of there, cat. That's my coffee. Get out of there. Get away. Get away. Oh, bugger. I never touched anything. Never touched anything electrical. I just unhooked the dash and called it good. And now it won't start. Like, it's totally dead. And to me, that's very frustrating. So I did put the battery charger on it overnight. I'm going to throw my coveralls on here and try to find out if there's some place that's going to ground. Seems like that's the case. Although I didn't see any sparks. So It's just going to be a wire tracing event here for a little bit. Hopefully I can get it going. If I can get it going, then I can set the brakes and put the seat and everything back in. And hopefully then we'll have a functioning backhoe again. So, as silly as this is to say, brakes aren't like a 100% necessary thing for this backhoe, because mostly all we're doing is just kind of bombing around dirt piles and around the farm. And you know, if you want to stop, you can just set the bucket down or whatever, right? No big deal. However, when you start trying to nose up to people's $110,000 dualies, and you're trying to get a 2,800 pound tote of molasses in there, or a ton bag of grain over the box side or whatever, that is when brakes are very, very important, and you really appreciate brakes. You also appreciate functioning windshield wipers, which this one has failed a while ago, so I got to come up with something there. There was a worm gear in there that actually was made of plastic and it's stripped out, so that had failed as well. But for a 1980s machine, I gotta say, I don't know how they do the math when they create loaders and things, but on the 4440 tractor out there, I believe they're 140 or 150 horsepower, something like that. It's got those big duals. Now, mind you, they're not filled with fluid and there's not weights, but I think that loader's good for about 110 horse, or maybe it should be good for 140 because it was to go on that tractor. So it's a Leon loader, and the whole thing physically is like twice the size of this unit. And when you pick up a 2,000 pound bag of grain with that tractor, you just spin in one spot. And it's awkward and it's cumbersome and you can't see the forks and it's terrible. This thing, however, you put forks on it, you can pick up a 3,000 pound tote. It's not even four-wheel drive, and you can drive around on the ice. So however they did that whole width to length to height ratio of whatever and everything else, the industrial guys have it figured out. That's one of the reasons we basically just use the telehandler now for everything. It just feels like you're not going to die when you're using it. But that's good enough for that. Let me find some coveralls, and let me find where the wire is going to ground or whatever it's doing in here, because having stuff that doesn't start is very, very frustrating. Having stuff that starts intermittently is even more frustrating. And we've been on a trajectory here where we've been replacing batteries and starters and alternators and all sorts of things. So we're winning on the starting front. Almost everything all fall just started. Nothing needs to be boosted. And boy, does that set you up for success during the day. Well, after some troubleshooting and some pulling out fuses that apparently go nowhere, I landed on a bad positive connection. So we had these terminals. They're ones that are for double batteries. So you just continue on this way with the wire to go to the next battery. That's all I had left. So I put it on here. I had to replace this big line there last year because it was rubbed through. But now it starts and it runs and life is good. I'm just going to take her for a maiden voyage and see what, I don't understand all these birds around here. They're just flying all over, they crap on everything. I'm gonna have to get myself one of them falcons or whatever that they use at the airports to chase the birds away. I'm gonna get myself one of those as a pet. But I'm going to go put this thing into road gear, drive straight towards Corey's car, and at the last second I'm going to hit the brakes. I think that's the best way to test the brakes, because they've never worked. They've never worked properly. They've never worked good, and I think I got them figured out now. So the best way to test that and to have a bunch of faith in your own work and your own ability is to put things right to the limit.